Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the White Sands Self-Care Community. I am your host, Laura Cross, and your resource for self-care. And I am excited to have with me today Bobby Uttaro. We were just speaking about that, Uttaro. He is currently in his 15th year as a rape crisis counselor and a community educator. I know you've been doing a lot of work on that, and you're a very big advocate and lifelong commitment to activism for the survivors of sexual violence. Not a topic that a lot of people talk about, but I think it needs to be talked about, and I'm glad you're there for the support. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Robert, or Bobby, tell me, as a rape counselor, for 15 years, what sparked your commitment to supporting survivors of sexual violence and their significant others?
Well, first, before I answer, I just want to give, kind of a warning to your listeners. I thank your listeners for being here, but also that it is a really difficult topic. It's a very heavy topic, and people might be upset. I might say something that could be triggering to someone. So to please just reach out for support. Turn this off if you need to, and just know that you're not alone. That there are people out there that listen to you and do whatever it is that brings you peace in this. So what got me involved in this? The simple answer is God. I was a college senior and I was taking a class on women in crime, and they talked about female gang members, female inmates in the prison system, and there was a massive subject that had to do with rape, and things were just boiling up inside of me. And women from a crisis center came and spoke to my class, and they were like angels to me. They were just so peaceful and yet so strong. And I've said so many times how much in awe I was of them. And they showed us a reenactment of a perpetrator, and that reenactment made me uh, deeply disgusted. I thought I was going to throw up in my chair. And then that disgust turned to a deep rage. This rage really scared me. Um, and I just heard God say to me, "Will you help?" And there were opportunities to volunteer, and I was so nervous and so scared, and every negative thing really just came at me. Um, but I did. I asked to volunteer. I spoke to the women after the class, and they ultimately accepted me. They chose me over a couple other people for an internship, and my life's never been the same since. I've been doing this ever since.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, it's tough to hear and explain. And I join you with your disgust of the whole thing, but it's
Mm.
unfortunate and it does happen. But can you discuss some of the mental, the emotional, and spiritual challenges that the survivors of sexual assault face, and how you help them navigate that?
There's so many. This causes a lot of deep pain and destruction and confusion. And for really long periods of time, for some people, their whole lives, especially depending if they've abused at a young age, maybe even as a child. So the range is quite vast, and the effects are quite vast, and it goes from anywhere to uh, depression to anxiety to rage, um, connected to eating disorders and suicide, self-harm, uh, sexual issues, trust issues, guilt, shame. Shame is, in my experience, the most common and the most deep that people feel, which is so sad because in my experience, people feel so much shame of what they've endured, and they feel like it's their fault, and they blame themselves for what they've done and where they went. And it's heartbreaking because it's never their fault. It really is the fault of someone who chose to hurt them, to sexually violate them. So all those things, and that can play a role into choices, into lifestyles, into relationships, marriages. So it's a huge thing, and even spirituality, just affecting people's faith in themselves, faith in the possibility in something greater than ourselves, and the possibility of the existence of God, or a blatant total disbelief that they no longer believe that God is there or that God loves them. So it really has a lot of destruction.
Yeah, and it really has a wide range effect on not just the victims, but the people around him.
Mhm.
And I know you, so you are the author of the book To the Survivors, which it's a good book. It's a tough read.
Mm.
And it is definitely a tough read, but it's a good book. And I know we start out like you were saying about how it was women, but like your book points out, it's not just women
Mhm.
that are victims of this, correct?
Correct. I would argue it's a human issue. I argue it's a spiritual issue, and it affects women, women, men, children. It affects people of every gender, every identity, every racial, ethnic background, socioeconomic status, any background and grouping that we can label on people, it can affect, and it does throughout the whole world, and it will continue to.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing is them either blaming themselves or, people that want to blame them, but people don't understand that they're not to blame. I know that's one of the points that you were making in the book too. And I'd have the book to show you, but it's out on loan to a friend right now. So it's getting circulated. um, so so you do workshops. How do your workshops help unpack the realities of sexual violence? And what strategies do you offer support and prevention? Because I know there's a lot of people that are looking for support, but there's
Mm.
a lot that don't come forward, don't talk about it, or maybe some don't realize it because they've buried it so deep. So,
Yeah, it's a great question. It really varies. And anyone I work with, including you, I always talk to, what are the needs, right? What are the needs of the specific population that we're working with? Is it middle school students? Is it the military? Is it a religious community? So what exactly is going on within that group? So sometimes, and you're right, that people are triggered in my talks. What's really interesting is I've had classes where I've had teachers really, they've expressed concern for a couple students, usually male students, and they fear that they could commit this crime or that they will, like in college. And so trying to get them in that and also to try to get some of the girls and the women to feel more comfortable in the class. So what's interesting is once you bring up the topic and then like once I introduce myself, I always try to keep it light and serious, but I try to make it as comfortable as possible. But once I bring up the topic, you can hear the silence. I mean, you can just see the effect on people. So even when there's a really rowdy class, even a disrespectful class, once you start talking about rape and sexual assault, in my experience, it changes. And so that also is a good thing because you see that they're taking it seriously and that they're really impacted by this. So it really varies. I try my best to simply provide a safe space. I try my best to educate people on the realities of it. And I try my best to allow them to ask any questions they have. So again, depending on, I once got invited to talk about my writing, and we didn't talk about writing at all. Like the high school students just had all these questions on the issues, and I was like, great. And the teacher was like, great, and it was totally cool. And so really just having that open space, that open dialogue, and for people to feel comfortable. And then after, it's like, hey, if you don't feel comfortable saying stuff, that's okay. Maybe send me an email, talk to your teacher. What resource do you need in the future? And that has happened plenty of times. And sometimes it's disclosures, where sometimes a middle school girl came up to me once and she just broke down crying. And I just hugged her for like at least a minute. And you just don't know what people are going through and you don't know what certain things can really set them off. But most of the time, it's really in a good and necessary way. So that's her breaking down was really helpful for her.
right. And that's got to be tough because I would think, you want to be careful or respectful of their boundaries or what they've gone through. But if you don't know what they've gone through, I would think that's a difficult task to try and be able to, like you said, build that trust and help them to get that breakthrough.
Hmm. And sometimes, the workshop could be on consent. It could be on maybe legal issues. It could be on responding to it. And this specific girl, I've done many trainings on just rape jokes where kids are making rape jokes, and I'm not here to hurt them. No one's getting them in trouble. No one, I'm not telling your parents, but I don't think many of you even understand what that word even means and the impact on it. So a big part of it is just simply educating people on, again, the realities of it and the impact that their words, the impact of their jokes can have on people, including their classmates, or as you said earlier, their family members. So I really want them to just think about what they're doing and saying.
Yeah, I guess I know your book goes into it in more detail, but those things I don't necessarily really think about is how not just the crime itself, but how it affects them legally and in, social environment. Do you want to go into a little more detail about some of the things that you've come across of what that does or what people can do to help them through that?
Well, again, it's such a broad
I know it's a
range.
wide topic, but
No, it
maybe
is.
like give them an
No, it's
instant.
great.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
it's always important to acknowledge that and just say, everyone's different and everyone might be going through something different, even if there's a commonality of abuse. So one example is one woman still being affected by an ex-boyfriend many years ago, who raped her, and another could be a parent who is struggling with issues and it's affecting her kids. And the kids don't know that she's been like sexually abused, or it could be a husband who is keeping all these things inside and he's stressed or angry, or it might be drinking too much, and his wife doesn't even know about the horrific sexual abuse he experienced as a child. I've witnessed women bawling their eyes out when they just realized that their husbands were abused. And so, depending on the need, and where they're at in that stage in their life, is where you try to be a bridge. You try to be a bridge to help them to go where they need to go. And that could be, wow, like yoga would be really helpful for you. Or maybe you really do need to see a therapist, or maybe it's a book and not mine, some other books, or maybe you love to write and create music, or a variety of different things. So depending on what the specific need is, try to be a bridge to help them to get there with support, with other people that they trust and love, and people that treat them the way they should be treated.
So what would you, because I know there's some things that are, to me, are really wrong to do, like telling people that they should just get over it and move on with their
Mm.
life. What would you suggest to people that maybe are trying to support someone that they know has been a victim and they're not sure how to help? What suggestions would you give for them?
You need to listen. I think we talk more than we listen, in my opinion. And so just listening, that alone can save a person's life. And that alone might be the only thing they need at that time, or really in a very long time. And then by doing that, you're meeting them where they're at, you're giving them a safe space to express themselves. And you're arguably allowing and creating even more trust. And so when there's trust there, then they're more likely to be able to say, I'm really struggling with my eating. Can you help me find, a specialist for my eating? Or I'm just so depressed, I have no motivation anymore. I need to possibly get on medication or just see a therapist, or whatever it is. The more people are sitting in isolation, with their thoughts and emotions, the worse they are in their lives, in my
Mhm.
personal experience and opinion. Um, so being able to listen to them, believe them, and to not tell them, "Oh, you must get over it," or "Oh, you have to go to court. Why are you not going to the police?" This is not the way to treat people with sexual violence. There are other ways to do it, and if you don't know, it's better to not say anything. It really is better to just say, "You know what? I really don't know. I'm not equipped in this at all, but I'm gonna try to find someone that can." And there are people out there that can. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, and that's a very good point because there's a lot of us that just want to help. We feel badly that this happened and you want to help fix them and get them back, but you kind of just can't, but by, like you said, by listening is helping. And we have to be able to look at that because none of us will ever understand what it went through. And I know your book even talks about ones that maybe it was something that happened 50 years ago, which
Mhm.
it seems hard to wrap your mind around, but it's like something later and just triggered it, or then they suddenly have memories. So there really is no time frame on it either.
And that's an important thing. I don't tell people what to do. I might offer suggestions. Well, I definitely offer suggestions depending on our relationship. And
Hmm.
ultimately, no, it's their choice. I've recommended people see therapists, for many years, and they ultimately don't, and I can't make them, right? I just can
Right.
give them multiple reasons why I think it would be helpful in their process, along
Hmm.
with like other things, right? Um, so yeah, it's tricky, but it's also tough for the significant other, and that's part of hopefully what I conveyed through my book and my work, is that it's not just individual victims and survivors who are affected; that it does affect loved ones, friends, family members, and so often of the time they don't know the why. It's the least reported violent crime, and it's often just so hidden. So it's very difficult to see the reality. It's difficult to see it. So family members or friends can be like, "Why are they so upset? Why are they so sad? Why are they crying all the time?" why aren't they going to work? Why are they doing all these things? And they don't even understand. Oftentimes, the root of it is trauma and abuse, and that's true with other traumas as well.
Right, right. And like you said, why do you think that is? Because I know our first reaction would be that obviously the other person should be punished, and we're supposed to have a legal system that helps protect them. And
Mhm.
I know you go into it a little bit about your book, but maybe you can share with why that doesn't. Maybe people don't want to go that route, or it hasn't worked well for others.
Well, again, how do you convict someone if there's no evidence? How do you convict someone of any crime if you have no evidence? Very difficult. And so often the time, there's no evidence. And so often the time, and it's totally okay. It's okay that people don't go to the hospital, don't go to the police. They're horrified, they're traumatized, they have no clue what just happened. Their whole life just changed. I'll never forget a man was telling me he just recently found out about his girlfriend who was raped in the past. And to him, it felt like nothing in the world made sense anymore because he just couldn't even fathom that this happened to the woman he loves and in her past. But there's no evidence. So there are many reasons why people don't go forward. One of them is evidence, one of them is not being believed, and one of them is simply being terrified to. And more often than not, people know their perpetrators. So it's very difficult to report something against someone they know, especially if it's a family member, and really, especially if they're a child.
Yeah, I guess the fear, facing them or reliving it. I mean, there's a lot of things that would come into play there.
Hmm.
But so for people that are listening that may have been raped or a victim of it or think they might, what what avenues would you suggest for them to reach out? I know there's got to be support and stuff out there for them, but if you've never been in it, you might not know where to even start looking.
Hmm. I first would just say that you're not alone ever, and that there's nothing on this earth that's worth taking your life, and there's nothing on this earth that's unspeakable, that you can ultimately express something that is going on with inside of you. And it doesn't have to be verbal either, that there are other ways to express pain or confusion or just questions, in your life. Um, So I think that's very important to just say. And there is in America, RAINN.org, Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network's a great resource that people can find state websites. So depending on where you live, to see what's out there, and go online, check out a website, see what's out there. Again, depending on what you need and depending on what you're struggling with, there will be someone out there that will connect with you, and there will be someone out there that can really help you. And if for some reason you reach out and you're not treated well and you're not treated with the respect and love you deserve, don't let that don't let that stifle you for another 10 years. You find someone else, because that you can find it and it's out there.
Yeah. And you also help do a lot. I know you do a lot of work with help and support with people. So is there a way that if someone that would like to talk to you more about this, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, you can email me. You can go to my website, robertuttaro.com, info@robertuttaro.com. I'm always checking emails, and depending, so we can talk, we can figure it out, if you feel comfortable. And if not, totally okay. It's really up to you. And uh, just try to connect with someone that you love and trust.
Wonderful. And as I was saying, if you want more insights and information, that book, your book To the Survivors, is it's a really good look into that and maybe help people I won't say understand, but relate maybe or empathize a little more with what people are going through and what they're feeling, because you actually have accounts in those books of stories from survivors. And so you actually kind of hear it from their point of view, which I, I admire them for being able to do that because that couldn't have been
Mm.
easy.
No, and I'll always be honored that these people trusted me enough to share their stories and allow me to put it in a book. I really believed and continue to believe and will always believe that their stories deeply impact people, that they resonate with people. And it was all in their own words, that I didn't change them, because that's their truth. So agree or disagree with the content, agree or disagree with the messages. Um, what they say is the truth of for them. And I think there's just deep power in truth. And it's, again, connecting possibly with me or connecting with the book to the survivors or connecting with a crisis center, could be connecting with Laura. You know, like you obviously have a community, and if people need stuff, you're more than equipped to help people through something they're struggling with. So
Yep.
it's a beautiful part of life where we can all try to help each other through this journey called life.
Yeah. And like you, I stay in my lane if it's not something I'm aware of, but I may know someone that can help because you start building those communities. And that's why I love doing this platform. You meet more and more people. So when you come across people, you can say, you might want to reach out to so and so. But like you said, it is all solely up to them.
Hmm.
They're just suggestions and resources, just like you said, to know that you're not alone.
Not alone, and to also, to the best of your ability, be patient with yourself. That you said something very powerful earlier. You said something that it's part of my struggle in the work. It's a spiritual battle in
Hmm.
my experience and with people I work with. It's trying to get them to really understand, like truly understand, like in their whole being, in their spirit, mind, body, heart, and soul, that it's not their fault. They're not to blame. And what you said earlier, there really is no timetable. And when they are able to do that, I've seen people's lives just change immensely, but it's very difficult to do that. But it's possible. It is
Yeah.
possible. And you said it, there is no time period. So please don't be hard on yourself because you didn't do something in the past. Or you're not doing something right now, and you might not do something in 3 months. Just understand that you can be patient with yourself and you can get through any of it.
Yeah. And everybody's experience and everybody is different. So like you said,
Mhm.
there's a whole wide range and um, I'm glad you're there. I'm glad you're there to do that. And thank you so much for coming out here and sharing it with everybody. I truly hope anyone that is suffering from this or knows someone that is can either reach out to Bobby, get his book, or like you said, rain.org, right?
RAINN.org. Yeah.
NN,
Yep.
RAINNN. Okay, .org. We'll put that in the comments too,
Okay.
so that they'll know how to get a hold of you. But thank you so much for taking the time and sharing a little more insight with that for people and giving them the resources to have something to reach out to help. So is there anything last words that you want to share with people before we go?
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everyone for being here. I know it's heavy, but smile, laugh. You can watch something that's funny, and again, just do whatever it is that brings you peace. There really is. I've been doing this for 15 years now. I feel a lifelong calling to it. I wouldn't do that if it wasn't important. I wouldn't do that if it wasn't necessary, and I wouldn't do it if I really didn't see things change. People live healthy, productive lives and grow. I can testify to it, and it's really special actually. So as depressing as this might be, as heavy as this might be, love what I do. I love connecting with you, Laura, and it's very special that you have this community. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Thank you. And that's got to be an amazing feeling, for those that you can, that you do help and that you can see them start to live a brighter and more vibrant life and not be stuck where they are.
Hope is not lost. It's very powerful, and belief is not lost. It's very powerful. And belief have many different powers actually, but just believe and understand that you can do it depending on what that it is, and you really can live a healthy, functional, and fulfilling life regardless of what has happened to you or what might happen to you in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for sharing all of that and for being that person. I'm sure everybody can see how easy you are to talk to, how passionate and how much you care about providing support for them. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.